So I'm here with Henk Coenen. Coenen?
Yes, correct.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for a Conversations with Leaders series. And I'm so excited to have you here. So can you share a little bit about your background and NXP?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. My name is Henk Coenen. I'm located in the Netherlands, working for NXP Semiconductors, and I'm heading a Cloud Center of Excellence in NXP. And quite excited on that one because I started just in that role 3 months ago.
Okay.
And it's really exciting.
So tell me about this Cloud Center of Excellence. Where are you going with this, and how do you see it?
Now, if you look at NXP, NXP is really, NXP Semiconductors is making semiconductor devices and really focusing on the edge computing as it is called today.
Okay.
In the past it was called the Internet of Things or the smart world or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And those devices, they obviously sense, they learn and they act, but they have to interact with the cloud. Right. And in order to get that in control, we as an NXP, we said, hey, we need to have a central team, or global team, who is coordinating that. One from a risk perspective, from an enabling perspective, and obviously from an innovation perspective.
Got it.
Yes.
So speaking
that's
of,
my role.
Okay, that's a great role. So speaking about innovation, what's the most exciting thing you're working on right now?
The most exciting thing, now that's obviously working together with the business.
Yeah.
It's not focusing on, let's say, migrating the traditional IT applications and lift and shift them to the cloud. That is not the focus. It's really to work with the business together to enable new products for NXP by enabling that in the cloud. And that is perfect. It's a real triangle, working on one hand with the customer, on the other hand with R&D and NXP and with IT. And a triangle, as you might know from the mechanical world, that's stability. And you should always work with 3 people together.
Okay, I like it. So how do you inspire innovation then in this triangle, in this world that you're creating?
That's a good question. The first question, what is innovation?
Okay. So what is innovation?
Yeah, thank you. I was expecting that one. So innovation is basically everything what is new compared to what you did to the normal life, to the traditional thing. How do I inspire that in the team is, first of all, accept that people do failures.
Okay.
But learn from that very fast. Do a failure, be proud of that you have done the failure and learn from that one. And then secondly is bring in all different people together from competences, whether it's from HR, whether it's from finance, whether it's from IT, whether it's maybe from I do not know what. Mm-hmm. Bring those people together and have in good Dutch a kruisbestuiving. I do not know the word for
Kruisbestuiven.
That's German.
Oh well, I tried. Okay.
Kruisbestuiving and then things happen. Then innovation starts.
Okay.
Then innovation starts. And build, sorry to interrupt you, on the technologies which are there. If you look to NXP, NXP is a company of 30,000 people,
okay.
10,000 engineers, and engineers know everything better.
Of course they do.
That is their role.
But you have an engineering culture that's solid and ingrained in everything.
Exactly. And you should also convince those people that use what is out there. If you look to Amazon, they bring a lot of new, we heard it during the keynote, all the new things they bring on machine learning. Mm-hmm. Why should you think about machine learning yourself and not use what is out there? That is the real challenge.
Interesting. And in a strong engineering culture, how do you get to the point where you can actually say failure is okay and I can learn from it? How did you make that transition?
That's a really good question, because that's a tough transition, because who is going to admit that he made a failure? Mm-hmm. And that also means that the management, in this case of the leadership in my role or other roles, that they are open. If there are failures, just say, I'm happy, and do not shoot him in good Dutch. Yeah. That's a difficult role. And we are working already for 2 years on that one. Just to be open on that, do in good words, what they say, 3 times 5i, root cause analysis. Be very proud on it, that there were failures. That the CIO, my boss, Olli Hipa, just tells every month in the monthly town hall meetings. We have some highlights and we have some lowlights, but the lowlights are there not to blame, but just to learn. And so it really comes from the leadership.
The leadership, yeah. And have you had any organizational changes as you adopt these new technologies?
Yeah, what we did, so in the past, we had a development team and an operational team, and a big wall in between, and now obviously it's black and white. And we brought those teams together. So we went from a project organization to a product organization.
Wow. Okay.
And we very rapidly learned, because when we made that move from the organizational change, the people who were working in development, they said, oh my God, so I will be called in the weekend if something goes wrong. Yes, you will be called in the weekend. But after, let's say, 2 months, the major problems were solved because they immediately know how to solve it and they focus on the right topics. And that is essential. Bring those people together.
And did you see a quality improvement because of it? Because if I'm getting called at 3 a.m, I'm going to try to make sure I will never get called in the morning.
Exactly. So if you look at it from a stability perspective and a performance perspective, it was an enormous step up. An enormous step up for the end users. And it was beautiful. People are also happy, by the way, because also even the developers now know what is really going on in operations, the other way around.
Okay.
So that's a big step.
And so when you've gone through these changes, obviously you did this because you want to get faster, right? You want to have maybe better resiliency. So how do you deal with this new pace of innovation? Because you're going a lot faster than before. Has that changed how you do business and how you operate?
Just to understand your question well, what do you mean innovation, bringing in new IT services?
For instance, right? But also for taking product ideas to market faster, just that change in pace?
Yes, that's definitely changing in pace. So first of all, I'm in the IT organization, so we are bringing IT services to the internal NXP community. That's our end users. That goes much faster, but on the other hand, it goes also with less disruption. So in the past, when we brought in a change, we had sometimes 2 to 3 days recovering period, and that is gone. So the change now happens either in the weekend or on Friday afternoon or on Wednesday afternoon, whatever. We plan for the change and there are no disruptions anymore. I could even say that for 90% of the changes which we are doing, they go disruptless. And that's amazing. That's quite good. That's quite good. And what I mean with disruptive, that there is no downtime anymore, planned or unplanned. And purely by bringing the development teams and the operation teams together.
So obviously this transformation that you went through, was that embraced by everyone or was there some difficulty in getting there? What was the journey like?
If you're talking about the change program, it was a tough one.
Okay.
It was a tough one. A number of teams, they were very open to that. And it has nothing to do with the age of the people. And sometimes I say, hey, more senior people, they are against it. But it had more to do with the willingness of the people to make it happen. That they, I always try to make an analogy to the 30s when it went very bad in the economy. What did they do in the US? Let's build the Empire State Building. Let's build something big, something to look to in the long run. If the team see, hey, this is the long-term ambition where we are looking for, and the management supports that, then they go for it. Some people were a little bit reluctant because they had the feeling that if we move in this direction, that they would lose their jobs.
Right. And how did you get them over that fear?
At the end of the day, it's just continuing because I strongly believe at the end of the day, nobody loses his job. Right. Maybe his job will change in terms of payrolls that he will move to an outsource center. But in my total career, I have never seen that I had to make somebody redundant due to the fact by moving to another way of working. If he or she does not perform, that's not a discussion.
Of course.
That's not a discussion. But I have never fired somebody. And by just making that clear to people, that it will not happen. And you should convince and just talk to people. And sometimes you have to bring them in other roles.
Right.
It's very important that you change the teams very rapidly. I'm a strong believer that you should have every 4 to 5 years another role. When I started my first when I started at Philips Research, that's a long time ago, then I had to come in, and probably we are at the same age, but I had to come in and then I had a handshake with HR. And the first thing HR was telling to me, "Hey Henk, welcome in Philips Research. Within 5 years you have another role." And I was coming in that company, was thinking, hey, I have a role for lifetime.
Right.
And that was a big message for me. So
It's a good message.
Good message.
Yeah.
And now strong believers switch every 5 years to a new role. Whether that role is another team and doing the same assignment, or whether it's a complete new role, that's another thing. But that's really important. That's really important.
Obviously, growth is top of mind for almost everybody, the CEO in particular, right, and the CFO. But how do you communicate your digital policy and your strategies as a lever for business growth? How do you communicate that into the organization?
And in this case, particularly to the senior management. Well, the CFO is obviously, where is he interested in? Hey, on one hand, can I make more revenue? On the other hand, can I increase the margins? Right. So if you look from a digital perspective, and for instance, in this case, to Amazon, and working with Amazon, you can digitalize your operations. And digitalize your operations basically means reduce your operational costs, so increase your margins. And that is then, the CFO is always in favor of that one. If you can reduce money, go for it, do it. He is happy. When you would like to go create more revenue, and especially as IT, by introducing new business models, the only thing, if you go to the business and you go as IT alone, it does not work.
Right.
You should always go, in the case of NXP, together with the product lines or the R&D community and IT, make a joint story. We believe that we are going to make a business in this area, and therefore we need IT, and therefore maybe we need cloud computing or what have you. That is the real story when you go to a CFO. Go jointly to him, IT and the business together. And let, in preference, make the business the storyline and not IT. The other aspect where the CFO is looking to, in the case of NXP, he not only looks to the money, but he also is responsible for the risk. And risk is, I would say 3 years ago, cloud was, is it secure or is it not secure? I would like to make a statement that in these days, the cloud environments, whether it's Amazon or Azure or Google or what have you, is maybe as secure as our own data centers. I'm not going to say that they are more secure, but you can read between the lines.
Fair enough. As you know, Amazon has this core fundamental leadership principle of being customer obsessed, right? Everything we do starts with the customer and we work backwards from the customer. So how do you encourage your team to stay close to your customer?
All the initiatives, what in my team, whether it's my direct team or my virtual team, I do only initiatives when there is a real product owner and the product owner is out of the business. If there is not the value stream which is recommended by the business that it adds value, then I'm not going to start that initiative. And it's maybe another way as Amazon is doing this, but I strongly believe that you should have somebody out of the business who can explain this is needed, what IT is doing for us. As an example, I learned during the keynote, well, Amazon has a big value proposition around machine learning. Real growth, a great story. So if somebody in NXP is coming to me, hey Henk, can you enable for me a server with GPU capacity? And I say, well, I think this is the wrong question. Let's go to Amazon and see they are much higher on the stack that you can really use the machine learning things. And in that way, I try to work on the right topics. So only if there's a business question, and the rest of the questions I will not take serious. Let's say.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Henk, I really, really appreciate that you took the time for this meeting and to chat with us and explain what NXP is up to, and you're doing some really amazing work. So thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.